Talk about social distancing. Here's a woman who has to go to the well in the middle of the day when no one else is around for all that she has done, what her life is all about, the truth that Jesus knows. Meanwhile, the disciples have also disappeared, gone off to get all the supplies, to stock up, and mainly to get ready so they can leave Samaria. There are two key points that seem prevalent, seem pertinent at this juncture in our faith story. First is the question of where do we worship? Having this program right here is a great example of a good question. Where do we worship? What does this mean? The Samaritan woman talks about how their group had been worshiping on a mountain nearby, whereas the Jews insisted that the only kind of worship, the best kind of worship, the only true worship, happened in Jerusalem, for that's where they believed God himself resided. Jesus kind of put a stop on that. He kind of quelled that fear, helping her recognize that it wasn't so much about the place as about the heart that comes. See, the Samaritans had been ridiculed for a long time because they were only partially good Jews. They were the remnant that had been left behind in Jerusalem and that area, while the rest of Judah had been exiled to Babylon. The folks that had been exiled felt like they were the hardy group and thus the real Jews. And meanwhile, the rest of the Hebrew people had intermarried. And so when they came back, there was this conflict and this recognition that, oh, maybe we can't be together, and therefore we can't even worship together. But Jesus is saying, no, I am about worshiping. I am about being connected. I'm about knowing the Father through the Spirit and truth, which has nothing to do with your ancestors or your hardiness or your place in the world. It's about coming with your heart open to the Spirit and the truth. The other point that seems prevalent at this time is how God knows us already. The Samaritan woman was fascinated, completely perplexed, amazed at the fact that Jesus knew her so well. I mean, he essentially could name the guys that she had been with before. To be known so intimately already was astonishing. And that was the thing that she told the people when she went back to the city. He knows me. He knows me. What is it about knowing one another? What is it about God knowing us so intimately that is attracting, that actually puts us at ease rather than makes us look aside with paranoia? There's something about that intimacy with God that is a kinship. It's a kinship of knowing what matters most. Not so much that she had previous husbands, but that who she was made full or made whole. It had complexities that Jesus was willing to honor, even as he honored her in her place at that particular day, at that particular spot. She was more than her husband's, but she was also informed by those relationships. I think this kinship is the kinship that we are called to with one another. It's this idea that we get to know one another beyond their circumstances, but at the heart of who they are. We can find kinship through service or saying hello, greeting one another, even across the street or 6 feet away. But as Father Gregory Boyle says, when we serve, when we care for others, that is the hallway on the way to the ballroom. In other words, when we delight in each other, in the kinship with each other, we connect in the ballroom. We might need help to get there, to be connected with one another, But once we're in the ballroom, we can dance and play and converse and have dinner and really get to know one another. We start caring for each other, not because of how our transactional relationships have worked, but how our transformational relations are worked. Mac and I took ballroom dancing lessons like within the first 6 months of our marriage. And there's nothing like stepping on another person's toes to get to know them better, right? But it's that intimacy, it's that complexity, that real tangibleness that helps us see one another and then know one another. This is the gospel, this is the spirit of truth that's saying, I know you, as the psalmist said, when you so intimately, I wove you together in your mother's womb. And to be about that kinship, to be about that intimacy with each other, even if we have to do it in a slightly distancing way, we can do it with our whole heart. I pray that our times together, however they come, can be this kind of kinship, that we might care at the heart of one another, maybe through the actions that we share, but certainly by the way that we see each other. May it be so. I'd like to lead us in a time of prayer, and in between each prayer, we will sing a little Taizé piece. O Lord, hear my prayer. It goes like this. O Lord, hear my prayer. O Lord, hear my prayer. When you call, answer me. O Lord, hear my prayer. O Lord, hear my prayer. Come